Hetepu Rahubat. Sino Lako Ninani Chief Noble Bandele Elamine back again. Going live. Second time, well, third time live. My third time live, y'all. We're gonna make third time a charm up in here. You feel me? Pieces, shout outs to the ancestors. Ashe. The ancestors in the building tonight. We want to get into today's topic. Today, if everybody should know, if you know, melanated, conscious, whatever, today is Malcolm X solar return. So, you know, and I wanted to do a show today. I wanted to give remembrance to Malcolm. We want to talk about Malcolm. We want to talk about everything. We want to give honors to Malcolm. We want to give honors to El Malak, El Shabazz. Okay, we want to give honor to the brother because, like I tell many people, I got it in my books. I give praise to this man because without him, I wouldn't be here. Okay, so I give thanks. Check it out. Before we get into all this, though, and before I get a whole bunch of people on here, if you haven't checked this book out on Amazon, please check this book out. This book right here is The Ancestral Covenant. Okay, the Book of the Ancestors. Baragani Dugu. I am doing Njama. I'm doing Njama tonight. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. But like I said, this book right here, Ancestral Covenant, you can find this book on Amazon, okay, under Morris New Kemet. But it's a book about the ancestors. So this book is for us. This is our spiritual book for the temple. So, okay. Oh, my brother is dropping the dimes on me. So, like I said, today's live is really about Malcolm X. Like I was saying, Malcolm X was an influential person in my life, as it is in many people's life. He was a very powerful speaker and a very determined, profound man. Okay, I mean, he was like the first brother that I seen on TV that actually was banging against the European. You know what I'm saying? The Albions. He was banging against those cats on national TV. And I had read his book, the autobiography of Malcolm X, when I was young, and that opened my mind up. I'm gonna tell you, one of the things that Malcolm said in one of his speeches was, yes, give thanks, much respect, Ashe, to Malcolm. One of the things that he said to me in a speech, I think it was the making of the white man, okay, and he said in the Bible where they said that let us make man in our image and in our likeness, okay. When he said that to me, that sparked my mind. I went to the Bible when I actually read that in the Bible. I began to wonder who is our, and from there, it opened my mind. So, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe to Malcolm, Ashe to our brother. I got on live earlier today on YouTube, and I gave everybody a reminder about Malcolm. The fact that Malcolm X was killed and we didn't do too much about it. That's what was stuck on my mind today. Malcolm was our great prince, as they say, and he was basically cornered by their own people. Okay, so but I want to get into this. I want to get into Malcolm. So everybody who's on here, I want to talk about Malcolm. I want to talk about the good because of course he is a mentor. He's been a mentor to me, even though he was in a spiritual form. He was my mentor. Um, the brother had done all his dirt or most of his dirt in life and was able to come clean and able to live a cleaner life. He couldn't be bought off by the CIA. He didn't give in. You know what I'm saying? I look at that comparing, and this is no disrespect to Martin Luther King or anything, but looking at Martin's compromise, being compromised by the FBI, being compromised by sleeping around with white women. Malcolm slept with white women early in his life. You know what I'm saying? And um, devoted the remaining of his lifetime to the upliftment of fallen humanity, the upliftment of man. Um, so I want to get into Malcolm and talk about some of the things that are a little bit of content, and also, I just want to talk about Malcolm. So, if anybody got anything to say in the chat about Malcolm, please, bring it forward so we can discuss that. But there are some things about Malcolm that people, you know, I, I, I am critical of all people. Okay, I look at what our ancestors did, good and bad. I always give honors and praise to Malcolm. He is one of our great ancestors. Okay, but I do look at what happened with Malcolm, like what caused Malcolm, being the prolific speaker person he was able to be compromised and cornered. Okay, as he was, and us as people kind of almost allowing this to happen. We look at the Nation of Islam, which he came out of, and Malcolm made the nation what it was. Let's just keep it real. Let's just keep it real. No disrespect to Elijah Muhammad, Asé, but when Malcolm came on the scene, we all know that Malcolm increased the membership by numbers. Okay, and people were there for Malcolm, and I know that became a problem. But see, what we look at and realize is how the CIA or the FBI was able to like put a wedge between Elijah and Malcolm. Okay, we all understand that. They had to separate them. We know COINTELPRO and all of that. Okay, but there was things that Malcolm, I feel, did that was not necessarily the right thing to do. But I feel like he did it because out of frustration. Um, and the thing I think that he did that I look at is the way that he went at Elijah Muhammad. When he realized that Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam, was becoming an enemy to him in a sense. They were all against Malcolm because Malcolm thought he was better than everybody. That's what they felt. They thought Malcolm was better, that he was cleaning house, that he really was legit about what he was doing, and that he could be the next successor to the Nation of Islam. And a lot of people in the nation had a problem with that. Okay, and that's crazy because they're supposed to be the black man's God, but they got they Willie Lynch inside them still. Okay, let's just keep it up. Okay, now I don't know how many of y'all watched the show. What is it? Godfather of Harlem. I watched Godfather of Harlem, and although I know that this is a lot of fiction in it, but I know it's a lot of it is based on the time. And they've got, if you watch Godfather of Harlem, you'll see that they talk about Elijah Muhammad. Thank you, brother. Thank you. They look at Elijah Muhammad in this show. They got the relationship between Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm in this show. And we're in season 2 of this show, and Malcolm is basically been silenced because of the remarks that he made about JFK's death, with the chickens coming home to roost, and he's Malcolm is trying to get back into the nation. And so, I mean, it shows me like Malcolm had so much respect and honor for Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad is what gave him that ultimate push in the right direction to get it. And he dedicated his time, energy, and everything to what Elijah Muhammad was talking. Okay, now, I also got to know about Manning Marable. I don't know if any of y'all know who Manning Marable is. Manning Marable was like the lead researcher on Malcolm X, and Manning would often talk about how Malcolm was so politically inclined, even when he was in prison. You know, when he was in prison, he looked at the injustices that were going on among the blacks in prison. Okay, there was times that Malcolm had dealt with a lot of things that were going on in the prison, and his political a lot too much. It was a lot. It was really too much for Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad, from what Manning Marable used to say, the late Manning Marable, I'll say to him. Manning Marable used to say that Elijah did not want to get into politics. Okay, and that is why he was very strict on what Malcolm said, being that Malcolm was being, watched 24/7, and basically, in the news feeds, even back in the 60s, he was in that news feed. You know what I mean? Like, you would be surprised how close the mic was to Malcolm. So Elijah really didn't want a lot of political talk from him. Nation of Islam was a religious movement, okay, that was based on, I want to say, really pseudo Islamic, okay, not totally all Islamic, but because that because they had such a religious stand and non-political, it ultimately this was going to cause a rift between Malcolm and Elijah. Elijah wasn't really willing to go with Malcolm, and Malcolm was too strong convicted. And like I said, when you watch The Godfather of Harlem, even like I said, once again, it's a fiction show. However, when you watch it, it shows Malcolm's reluctance reluctancy to want to go back to the nation because Elijah was so adamant about him not being political. But Malcolm was in the spotlight. Malcolm, I think Malcolm liked to be in the spotlight in a sense. When you look at Malcolm's personality, he was a flashy person. Okay? Malcolm was a flashy person when he was younger. He liked the spotlight. You see what I'm saying? You saying wonder why? What you talking about, brother? Wonder why? Talk to me. But oh yeah, Detroit Red. Exactly. I'm just saying, like, he was a flashy, flamboyant person, and the nation had chiseled that flamboyancy into like a intellectual machine, if you will. But he still had these characteristics and traits in him, you know. But he just tried to use these tools that he already had. He tried to use them in a way to uplift humanity. He always tried to look, for a way to do that. And like I said, you can see it. The guy who played Malcolm X, I always thought that Denzel Washington did a good job on Malcolm X, the movie. But I don't know the guy's name on the show, but he does look like him, and he does put me in mind of Malcolm. Like I feel like I'm really looking at Malcolm when I'm watching the show. Uh, but the fact that Malcolm was outgrowing the nation. Um, he was outgrowing what Elijah was talking about. You know, Elijah and to me, Malcolm was doing a lot of what we do in our lives. You know, when we become more open-minded to things, so-called conscious, we begin to question our structure. We begin to question, for our foundation. We begin to question, if we're in the church. We begin to look at like, well, it's more than the church. The church is okay, but we begin to look at other information, other aspects. And Malcolm began to travel. He was, you know, talking with leaders of the world. He was doing things that Elijah Muhammad wasn't doing. All praise to the honorable Muhammad, but Elijah Muhammad didn't have that charismatic spirit about him. He was a meek, mild-speaking man who, had a particular amount of knowledge that he was able to, build with. But mild man, where Malcolm had that, like my elder said, Malcolm had that preacher, but intellectual, charismatic speeching. Like his caters, his caterer was on point. He knew how to arouse the crowd. He knew how to tap into your emotional side. Okay, a lot better than I think Elijah Muhammad. And I look at Farrakhan, and I say, Farrakhan's kind of too. And so I feel like Farrakhan does get a lot of bad credit about Malcolm, and a lot of people try to say that Farrakhan tried to kill Malcolm or whatnot, and I really don't believe that. Based on a lot of the information that's coming out now, you can tell that Elijah not. I don't think Elijah had anything directly to do with Malcolm's murder. I do believe that the atmosphere in which Malcolm and the nation was part of, I do believe that the climate that was created by the Nation of Islam was what caused, a lot of issues. But I don't believe that Farrakhan himself actually did it. And like me and the brother who's on here, man, we talked about how Malcolm X's daughter tried to, wanted to kill Farrakhan because she believed that he was part of the assassination. And she may know something. I mean, I'm not ruling it all the way 100% out. I just don't think that Farrakhan was a direct order against it. I think he wanted him dead, like pretty much anybody else did that was in the nation. And they addressed that also in the Godfather of Harlem. They showed God in the Godfather of Harlem, one of the main ministers, was talking about how much of a hypocrite Malcolm X was, and that we don't have to listen to him no more. We're going to silence him on our own, okay? Or by the direct order of Elijah Muhammad, because the nation had an elite, the fruit of Islam, the FOI, might go out and carry out certain deeds. They might go carry out certain stuff. The Nation of Islam, the FOI, could get pretty grimy when it needed to be. I mean, they protect Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad is like the Black Pope. He's the Black Pope. They protect him. He had more protection, I feel like, than like Martin Luther King did. You wasn't gonna run up Elijah Muhammad. The FOI is a very, very well trained and oiled militant part of the Nation of Islam. and they would be known to go out and do some stuff now. So I mean, I'm not putting it past them that they may not have made attempts on Malcolm's life, or that they might have had something to do with it, in cahoots with, the FBI, the FBI putting plants in there and using agents, or or people that are snitches, like we watched on the Judas, the what's the show, the movie with Black Judas, you know, the FBI is very good at putting plants in a certain place. So it was very understandable if the FBI was able to put plants in with Malcolm X organization, and even in the Nation of Islam, and perhaps in the Fruit of Islam. You understand what I'm saying? So it is possible. I'm not putting that past it, but at the same time, I mean, right? I don't see why not. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's these things are very plausible based on what we know how the FBI work. You know what I'm saying? So not to ramble on that, man, but just knowing that the Nation of Islam is probably been compromised in this situation. Okay, so what but what I want to look at too is also there's certain things about Malcolm X. When we look at Malcolm X, we can see that Malcolm made some type of transformation from being part of a pro-black thought pattern where he was mostly focused on Nation of Islam and uplifting black people in America. But at some point, Malcolm began to make a turn from that into a more of a pan-Africanist perspective. Okay. Now, there's one person in particular that had a great influence on Malcolm, and his name is Pinto, 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 and they say in 1939. In 1939, Pinto had started to make his come up I mean, not 19, I'm sorry, not 1939, but 1959. In 1959, right, in 1959, Malcolm made a visit to Kenya, okay? And so he found that there was a lot in common with what was going on in Kenya with Pinto, okay? Pinto was planning a strategy, with that to help the suffering Africans in America. I mean, in Africa, he had something set up. So when Malcolm met Pinto, Pinto actually started to show him that it's bigger than just blacks so-called blacks in America. Okay, Pinto actually showed him a pan-Africanist view. He showed them that there's a need to connect with all of the blacks, so-called blacks, the indigenous melanated people around the world that have a common struggle against the oppressive European forces. It was common. I mean, like, 59, 58, back in the 50s, 60s, Africa was still under colonial rule. Pinto was very important in a pivotal part of making Kenya independent. His name was Pio or Pio Gamma Pinto. Okay, they said that he had to die because he was near perfect of an African socialist. Okay, now the reason why I'm mentioning Pinto is because the CIA, okay, had to have been, they were watching Malcolm as well. Because Malcolm, the FBI watched him internationally, okay? And the CIA had to watch him, the FBI was watching Malcolm on a national level. And And the reason why the CIA, because Malcolm was traveling. He traveled to Kenya. He starting to move outside of national borders. He was starting to make connections with, like I said, we all know African leaders who wanted to take, the United States to the world court over the atrocities. And, he was going to build a coalition with these African leaders and these people around the world in order to fulfill that need. So that was a big no. That was a big no. We understand that. We understand J. Edgar Hoover did not want any black messiahs. We understand that. So, I think that the biggest black messiah that we had was Malcolm X. He probably was the biggest threat that J. Edgar Hoover probably saw ever in blacks. And I would say a close second might be the Black Panther Party, but Malcolm was, as a man, was a major threat. Okay. It's now why do I know there was a deep connection? Well, Pinto was assassinated 3 days. 3 days before Malcolm X was assassinated. So we talking about in February like 18th, Pinto was killed. And then Malcolm was. And so you see that they were dissembling, they were taking apart the black movement on a world scale. Okay. So Malcolm X's legacy is so important today. Okay. Let me turn this up, man. Let me turn this up. All right. All right. Malcolm's legacy is on the line today because everything that Malcolm was talking about, from police brutality to Uncle Tom's, okay, to the voting, the ballot of the bullet, any of those things you read, y'all know. If y'all go back and read stuff from, if y'all go back and read any of Malcolm X's books and any of his speeches and whatnot, you'll see that most of the stuff that he's talking about is still prevalent. I mean, he talks about being in bed with the liberals. Okay? Being in bed with the liberals. He talk about how we can't be in the bed with liberals. He talk about how the liberals are just as bad as the Republicans or the conservatives. Okay? And he was saying this in the 60s. And not much has changed. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy that everything that Malcolm was trying to do was stopped, and we still dealing with it today. You understand what I'm saying? All the police brutality, all of the politics, all that is still being dealt with today. His ass set us back. Okay? But at the same time, Malcolm's assassination propelled the Black Power movement. His teaching, his philosophies were streamed together and put into new form under Black Panthers parties and whatnot. I mean, like I like the fact the Black Panther with the Black Judas, not the Black Judas, but the hey, what's the name of the movie, man? The movie that was just came out this earlier this year, and it was about the our Black Panther Fred Hampton Jr. Fred Hampton Jr. Fred Hampton was a prolific speaker, charismatic speaker, but he knew Malcolm X speeches. So the disciples of Malcolm X that he had planted that carried on today. Okay, they carried on. They carried on until now. Disciple. I'm a disciple of Malcolm. You know, I come out of Malcolm's philosophy, of his womb of philosophy, his testicles of philosophy. I come out of his testicles of philosophy, and it is important that Malcolm's legacy is not tampered with by society, by the media. We cannot allow the media or society in general to reconstruct Malcolm's legacy. Okay? Because if we allow that to happen, what you'll find is you'll see the same thing that happened with Martin Luther King, where they constructed him, they made a holiday, out of him, and they created this whole false narrative of who Martin Luther King was. So with Malcolm being the strong man he was, being that he did not compromise his integrity for the most part. He did not compromise his integrity until the end. Even when he knew, we all know that Malcolm knew that his days were short. He knew this. But yet, he did not stop. He did not stop. Now, keep it real. Most of us niggas would have, we stop. We wouldn't go that far. We take the money. Most of us take the money and run and start talking from a different side. But Malcolm never did that, man. And that's what makes him a true ancestor. And it's really up to us to invoke Malcolm's legacy in us. It's up to us to try to invoke the courage to fight even when you know the odds are against you, and to keep your integrity as a man, as an adult, as a man, to keep our integrity toward even through the end. So like I said, I'll say to Malcolm, I pray for his family. I don't even want to get into what happened to his grandson. I feel like they took out his grandson. I feel like they took out. I feel like they took out his grandson. His grandson was killed earlier than he was, which is the same grandson that actually was the one that burnt down the house that killed Malcolm X's wife, Betty Shabazz. Betty Shabazz, wound up dying, being burned up in a fire, which is tragic. It's very tragic what happened to her, I say. But, that family will always be watched. That family will always be, be looked at. And I just, give praise and honor. And we really need to, hold Malcolm's daughters up as they are, because they do work. Malcolm's daughters are still around, and they are, they were all raised Muslim, and they all intelligent, and they are doing work. What's her name? Aisha Shabazz. If you follow her, she does work. She's a very intelligent. She reminds me of Malcolm so much. Like her speech, her walk, the look. she's like a darker version of Malcolm in a lot of ways. I just feel like if we ever get another Malcolm, that we must protect this man or woman. If we ever get another Malcolm X, we must protect him. I feel like the last one that we had that was close to Malcolm was Khalid Muhammad. I feel like Khalid Muhammad was a no compromising. He didn't bite his tongue, and he banged on them Europeans, man. He banged on the system. He banged at the government. He stood his ground. He was articulate, very much like Malcolm. And it's interesting that Khalid was basically had to step away from the nation, just like Malcolm had to step away from the nation. You know. My last point too on this is that we talked about Malcolm and we said how Malcolm was such a political person that because he was such a political person that he was in odds with the Nation of Islam. What I find very interesting is that look at the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam, when you look at Farrakhan, he's a political person. He's speaking of politics. He's banged against them just like Malcolm did. If you notice, he says he follows Elijah Muhammad. And look, I'm not trying to get on peace. I'm not trying to Salim, peace to the gods. I'm not trying to get on Elijah Muhammad or anything like that on that nature. I mean, not Elijah, but Farrakhan. I'm not getting on Farrakhan. But what I notice is that Farrakhan tries to he says that he's following Elijah Muhammad. He reestablished the Nation of Islam based off of Elijah Muhammad. But Elijah Muhammad was very adamant about not being political. He was very adamant about not being political. I mean, this is why Malcolm X was, taking out the Nation of Islam. Okay? Peace to the gods, man. That's wonderful, man. Out in Algeria, out in our lands, Algeria, definitely part of the Moorish territories back in the day as well. You know what I'm saying? So, but I find that, back to what I'm saying, but I find that the political problem that Malcolm had after time, the nation has embraced the talk. Farrakhan has been in trouble so many times, early in his career that, he talked about the Jews. He talked about different politicians. It ain't like he ain't never talked about Reagan or any of these politicians back then. So I feel like Malcolm was definitely ahead of his time. And usually when people are ahead of their time, they are usually ostracized. Okay? Almost like prophets. Prophets, when you read stories on prophets are always ahead of their time. Okay, that's what a prophet usually is. And the people don't understand what he's talking about because they are not up to speed. They're not ahead. He's looking at things ahead. See. So you're Berber. That's what's up. There's definitely, Berbers are definitely not Arabs. And that's for sure. That's for sure. Those are the indigenous, they are more of the indigenous people that were there when the Arabs got there. Okay? When the Arabs got there, they ran into the Berbers. Okay? So big up to that. But Like I said, if any of y'all have ever checked out, go check out Godfather of Harlem. I think it's on Epics. It's on Epics. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. You know, please, if y'all like the video, subscribe. Check out the other videos I have. You know, I got a lot of other videos. I talk about a lot of different subject matters. Like I said, I've been studying the culture since '92. Okay, like I said, Malcolm X is what woke me up. Malcolm X is what woke me up. Once, and I have to give praise to my brother, who's passed on. His name was Scott by Brother Kasim, and he's the one that did that. Let's say Kim in Africa is learn to take the right place. Hieroglyphics tell you the owls and the birds, all the symbols are showing us what to do. We need to come together. We definitely need to come together. And that's another thing. When you look at Malcolm, Malcolm has started the OAAU, and that organization was, based on trying to unify everybody. He was trying to talk to the people. He didn't want to use religion. He didn't want to use religion per se because he knew that he was talking to a lot of Christians. And he knew that the nation could not necessarily address the Christians. That was a major, shit. Most of the blacks, even today, most of the blacks are Christian. So you got this small group of the Nation of Islam, which is a small sect at the time that was trying to, teach this stuff. And it was going to be hard, for people to listen because they're like, well, I believe in Jesus. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't. So as Malcolm, when he broke away from the group and began to do his own thing, he tried to come about it from a not to say he wasn't religious because he definitely was a Muslim, but he wanted to go beyond Islam. He wanted to talk to the people. He was trying to tell the people about who they were. Malcolm was trying to tell you the culture. What was your culture? Religion is slavery. Religion is a system that it can be used to indoctrinate and train you to think a certain way. So religion definitely can be used, and I mean, and that's what you see with the Nation of Islam. Like when you watch, when you talk to them brothers, like I said, no disrespect because they have raised up themselves to a certain level, but when you talk to them, they'll be like, "When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, when the Honorable Farrakhan said, they never speak for themselves." Okay. Malcolm is like the D. South. What was that? I missed it. Who defended Islam? Right. I mean, like Malcolm. That's another thing. Malcolm wanted to know more about Islam. He began to see Islam from where it came from. You know what I'm saying? Like he went to Mecca. Now, I don't want to say for certain, but I feel like Elijah, his knowledge base is based on what he was taught by, Farad Muhammad and what he was taught by Moorish Science Temple of America. Because we all know that, Noble Drew Ali, the Moorish Science Temple of America was like the first like black Islamic organization. And then we know that Elijah Muhammad came out of that. Okay, and so then, he influences Malcolm later. But Malcolm, and if you look at Malcolm's name, he took on a name that was very Moorish-like. El Shabazz, El Shabazz, or Shabazz, El Malik, El Had Malik Shabazz. You understand what I'm saying? Those are coming back to more traditional names. He was trying to come back to a more of his roots of Islam. He was trying to, he was kind of not looking at so much at the myth of the Islam. Because Elijah Muhammad, I watched this video. I watched this video on, I don't know if y'all know who Walith Dean Fard Muhammad is. Walith is the son of Elijah Muhammad. He is the one that eventually wound up taking over the Nation of Islam. Malcolm inspired millions to come to Islam. Malcolm did. Malcolm definitely did. Malcolm definitely was a catalyst for people to go look at another type of Islam. And I'm gonna tell you something. Malcolm and Wallace Muhammad were kind of close. Like I said, Wallace Muhammad was named after Fard Muhammad, the one that's supposed to be Allah and power. Okay, he named Elijah Muhammad named his son after him. So Wallace used to get banned from Nation of Islam. Like he would be talking like opposite stuff. Okay, but you know that the thing about it, Wallace was when Elijah Muhammad passed away, Wallace took over the Nation of Islam and he changed it into a more of an Islamic way, like more of a Western, Eastern, West, or like from Arabia, like from the land. He took on more of an Muslim Islamic way of life than what you find from Elijah Muhammad. Okay, so I say that because Malcolm had moved away and started Islam and started looking at Islam from a different perspective, and a lot of the people that followed Malcolm that were in the nation, they came out and they started to follow him, and so they began to adopt the more Sunni Muslim tradition. So Malcolm doesn't get a lot of credit for that. A lot of times when we give credit to Wallace Muhammad. Okay, we give a lot more credit to Wallace Muhammad for bringing the biggest Islamic movement in America, black Muslim America. Okay, but before him was Malcolm X. Malcolm X was definitely one who's to start a Islamic Reformation in America. Right. He changed his name because the people they called him black people. So is a rebellion. I mean, definitely him changing his name signified a lot of things. His changing his name signified him being his own man. And him taking on a different philosophy. I feel like putting away a lot of what the Nation of Islam was talking about. I wanted to go back to what I was going to say. There's an interview on YouTube where Farrakhan and Wallace Muhammad are discussing things. They're discussing that Fard is Allah in person and things like that. Farrakhan basically said that these things that have been said in the nation were just to bring and raise the black people up from where they were. They needed some kind of self-confidence. And so a lot of the things that they said was not necessarily true. Her real name, not Malcolm X, right? You saying her name, you talking about as far as Malcolm's name was not Malcolm X? Because, it was El Ha Malik El Shabazz. That was the name that he wound up taking on later, shortly before he passed. So, but we all know him by Malcolm X. He was known by Malcolm X. That was his name that was given to him by Elijah Muhammad, And like if you watch that video with Malcolm, these white boys got on there on TV talking about, is that your real name? And he was like, as far as I'm concerned, that's my real name. You know what I'm saying? And they basically was like, was that the name given to you? He was like, was that the name that was stolen from me by the slave master? So he put it right back on him. He was like, the name that I got that you so-called Malcolm Little was given to me by my slave master. So that ain't my real name either. So Malcolm definitely slammed him about the name. and taking that X name, and the way he displayed these things on TV so eloquently and militant. It was it's crazy how that was even allowed on TV, man. Like I don't even know how Malcolm got half that shit off on TV, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna lie to you. But I don't know. Is there anything that you guys want to like talk about on Malcolm, man? Like I'm just I'm giving my understanding on Malcolm, but I want to know what you guys think about Malcolm. What how we can reflect on this day because man, it is time for what Malcolm X was saying to be put into action. It is time for us to, wake up as a people and to take a look at who we really are and and how we really play a part in the rest of this society. You know, how do we play a part? And how can we unite and work in a pan-Africanist way around the world? Because I mean, think about this. Malcolm was traveling, around the world, and there was no Instagram, there was no social media in his time frame, and he was able to do the work he did. Now, we got a brother on here that's over from Algeria. Like the way that we are able to talk and communicate with people from around the world without having to ever leave is, an amazing thing to do. But how are we as melanated people using these tools to actually uplift humanity? Like I often think like if Malcolm X was alive today and if he was in his prime right now, how effective would he use the social media? Would he use the social media? I would think he would. Hell, he'd probably be banned on certain social media platforms. But I think that Malcolm would be able to use the social media to his advantage. Yes, is rebellion really because it's difficult to change a name against dictators? It it is a rebellion when you change your name, which is what all of us did. I mean, I changed my name years and years ago because it was a rebellious act, and Malcolm being a rebel. Yeah, you're right. People would be censored, man. Like I think Malcolm probably would be censored by now, but he probably already got the ear. The fact that you can get on message and say, "Hey, hit me up," or "Let me talk to you," "Give me a call," or "Let's meet up," and you're able to like talk to people across the world. You know, that's that's what's key. It's the fact that I mean, because Malcolm was being watched. Malcolm was being watched by the CIA. So he was big time. I mean, like he was going over to Africa. He was going to Kenya. Okay, he was building with the brother Pinto. He was building with y'all. Look up Pinto. Y'all look him up, man, and y'all gonna see that like the Mama movement and all that was going on because of Pinto. You know, Pio Gama Pinto. Y'all check Pio Gama Pinto. I mean, like we don't know about this man, but like I said, this Pinto was so influential in the teaching of Malcolm about Pan-Africanist views. Malcolm changed when he created the OAAU. He was coming from a Pan-African state of mind. Now, that's why he was dangerous. Because if he was able to connect these groups of people that were over in Africa that were actually starting to fight for their freedom, and if he was able to like bring that energy over to the Americas, you know, he would have taken out that whole civil rights movement, that whole, you know, Martin Luther King turned the other cheek stuff. He would have smashed that earlier, you know. But I'm gonna tell you, Malcolm died in 1965, and it wasn't nothing but 4 years later that the Black Panther Party emerged. 68. So it wasn't nothing but 3 years after Malcolm passes away that the Black Power movement starts. Malcolm was the agitator of the pro-black movement. He is the one that started the pro-black movement. If he had lived, he would have been the head of the pro-black movement. He would have been working with. He would have been working with the Christian leaders. He would have been working with Martin Luther King by then, because we already know that they was coming together. Their philosophies were beginning to intersect. So we know Malcolm would have been working with black Christian leaders. He would have been working with leaders over in Africa. Okay? He would have been working with Islamic leaders, Muslim leaders. He would have been working with all of them. Because he understood that this was beyond religion. Because you could be a Jewish nigga, Christian nigga, Hebrew Israelite nigga, whatever you was gonna be religious wise, you still was not gonna have political power. And that was, I think, Malcolm's main thing. He saw that we had a political power force and we had to do more than religion. He saw how, if you look at the Christian movement, the Christians were able to come into politics. I mean, like, if you look at conservatives are basically religious. They're Christians. They're on the right. A conservative tends to be a right wing Christian. So Christians were able to take politics and use it to propel their goals. Okay? And I think Malcolm saw the same thing, and he was geared toward politics. And so eventually he was going to have to leave the nation. And that's what he understood. He understood at that point, like, you know, I'm not going to be able to get my message. I'm not going to be able to get my. I'm not going to be able to get my message out through the Nation of Islam. You know. Yeah, peace, God. 8.0. You know, me and you got to do a show too, because we got to finish up our show on the gangs and how the gangs in Chicago and everything was being, you know, influenced by wealthy elite. You know, we got to get back into that. You know, and see, that's the thing. I don't think Malcolm was ever compromised. Like I said, the only thing that the main thing that I have a problem with Malcolm, like I said before, y'all can come in with, or chime in on this. The problem I had with Malcolm is that he began to spill the Elijah Muhammad's business out on the street, straight to the same white man that he knew was kind of an enemy. You know, he just started, like, if you watch, you can watch these videos, you can watch on YouTube. He started going in and talking about Elijah Muhammad and these women, these girls he was sleeping with. Now I'm not saying Elijah was right about it, but what I'm saying is you knew that Malcolm was done with Elijah, because Elijah had turned his back on him. And at that point, Malcolm was like, man, screw Elijah. I'm done with him. He's a hypocrite, and I'm a bust him. I'm a bust him for it. And I think that ultimately too was a tipping point for the nation because now it was like you're blaspheming Elijah Muhammad. You're blaspheming their their prophet, their God, and they weren't going to tolerate that, man. So I think that was one of his, I think, mistakes. They talk about how he was in love with one of Farrakhan's, the Farrakhan, excuse me. I think one of Elijah Muhammad's girls that he was messing with. I think that, um, he they kind of say that about Malcolm. And I don't know if that's how true it is or not. It could be very. Malcolm is a human being and he's infallible. We all can fall victim to certain issues, but I'm not gonna put that on Malcolm. I'm just saying that, you know, that kind of information or that kind of talk about Malcolm is out there. But there's not a lot of talk about Malcolm being a bad man or being compromised. Like I said, Martin Luther King, he was compromised. Messing with the white women and taking this money and this and that. Malcolm was never known to be taking money from nobody like that. If he had money, he would have been well off. If you look at Martin Luther King, you don't really hear like he had a. I'm not saying that Martin was rich, but you don't hear him having money problems like that. You don't hear Martin Luther King having money problems. Well, Malcolm was doing all this work under the Nation of Islam, and so when they pulled the rug from under him, he had to come up with another source of money. And being that the man that he wasn't trying to rip people off. So, he didn't have a lot of money. He didn't have a lot of money. People was helping him out. People was helping him out. So, what we need to do is really just look at our leaders and stop what we do today with our own leaders is we really talk about our leaders. We talk about all of them. And of course, I think that a lot of our leaders may be wrong about certain things, but I think for us to be publicly talk about them and put them down is a problem. Because, if Malcolm was alive today, there was going to be, because there's a new way of assassinating people that wasn't as advanced then. Because social media, computers, technology can put false information. You can easily put up false narratives and people to push these false narratives on live. Go live like I am. We can go live like me. You can be on Facebook. You can type up or put memes out, and so much easily we can be influenced and turned against our own leaders. Like Umar Johnson. As bad as Umar Johnson might have not put this school up or this and that, Umar Johnson goes out there. He does spit those facts. He does say a lot of positive, powerful things, and but we don't back him. We're not backing him. So it's are we gonna keep doing what we did to Malcolm X? Are we gonna keep killing us off like Malcolm? We in a new age, y'all. We in a new time. We in a new age, a new disposition. We are aware of what's going on in society. We shouldn't fall for the same damn tricks that we fell for in 1960s. We shouldn't go for the stupid tactics that they used to try to pit one person against another. We passed that. We should be past that. We can't let YouTube, we can't let social media divide us. We cannot let religion divide us. Okay? We can't let, skin shades and this stuff divide us. You see what I'm saying? We don't have the same zeal for leadership because, hell, look what they did. They put up Malcolm, Martin, what's his name? Fred Hampton. All these leaders, they killed them. In cold blood. They shot them in cold blood and let them bleed and die on the street. And They did that, and that killed the rest of the people who was looking to do something. And then the next generation of leaders were jailed. So I mean, like the Black Panthers, you don't hear a lot about the Black Panthers being killed off per se, but the black jail. A lot of the leaders, like I mean, like Yahweh Ben Yahweh, and what's his name, Malachi Z. York, and people of that nature, all in jail. They're all in jail. They built when they started to build up and get land and property. They put them in jail. They had a big leaders. They put them in jail. J. Edgar Hoover is dead, but what he set up still is being facilitated in some form or fashion. That there cannot be a black Messiah. And Malcolm X was one of our black messiahs. He was one of our black messiahs. And he was crucified. He was definitely crucified. And it's sad. It's to me, it's just sad. It's a tragedy. And we've definitely just got to learn from his mistakes, man. So I'm out of here, man. If y'all enjoy this, I'm gonna be coming back, banging them out, man. Check out our blog talk. We got a blog talk radio show, Indigenous People Radio. Check out our videos. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Chief Bandalay, Chief Noble Bandalay on Instagram. So just check me out. I'm gonna keep banging this out. We gonna get this together, y'all. We gonna figure this out. Until then, peace.